What's going on, team? It's Caddy with Money Investing. I hope that you all are having an amazing day. So in this video, we're going to talk about Microsoft, ticker symbol MSFT. And today the company announced their fourth quarter results and ending the fiscal year 2020. Now, Microsoft is also one of those companies that end their fiscal year on June 30th and they begin their fiscal year on July 1st. So it goes from July 1st to June 30th, so they're not aligned with the calendar year. So they just reported their fourth quarter earnings as opposed to some companies that are reporting their second quarter earnings in 2020. So we'll kind of go over what that report looks like, where the company's growth and 2021 guidance is going to be moving forward. The stock did take a hit after hours when the company did report their earnings. So we'll go over exactly what that is. And I think it was down close to 3%. It was down trading at $203 to $204 during that price level at the time of this video. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to jump over to this article that essentially goes Microsoft blows past Wall Street estimates, earnings boosted by cloud revenue. So Microsoft revenue for its fiscal year Q4 2020 earnings after the bell on Wednesday, which is today, and the revenue they reported was close to $38 billion versus the $35.5 billion that was expected. The EPS came in at $1.46 with the $1.36 expected, and then the intelligent cloud segment reported $13.4 billion versus the $13.1 billion expected. And then more personal computing, that business segment reported close to $13 billion in revenue versus $11.5 billion in expected. So this right here just reads that Microsoft's growth over the past several years has been due to its intelligent cloud business, which includes powerful Azure platform. In fiscal year Q4 2020, Microsoft reported $13.4 billion in revenue from intelligent cloud, a 17% increase over the same time quarter last year. So now we're going to read a little bit further and kind of dissect what exactly went wrong when people were reading the report, which essentially resulted in the stock price dropping close to 2.5% to 3%. So this right here, it says, according to BMO Capital Markets analyst Keith Bachman, he says that coming quarters will offer a tough margin comparisons between fiscal year 2020 and fiscal year 2021. He also goes over that the end of support for Microsoft's Windows Server and Windows 7 have essentially helped push growth in the company's intelligent cloud and more personal computing segments, and that benefit he foresees should drop off in fiscal year Q4 2020. So essentially moving forward, they're going to have some tough times keeping up with those heavy, pretty juicy margins when we talk about Microsoft. I mean, their net income margin has been averaging close to about 30 to 35%, which for any company is significantly higher, and provided that the company is making hundreds of billions of dollars, that trickles down to $30 to $40 billion, which we will go over in just a second. Alright guys, so here we are inside Microsoft's official website, and this is their Q4 earning. You guys can see the earnings release fiscal year 2020. Fourth quarter. So this right here are going to be some key highlights that I have highlighted for you guys. So revenue was up at $38 billion, increased 13%. Operating income was $13.4 billion and increased 8%. Net income was $11.2 billion and decreased 15% on a GAAP adjusted basis, but it was up close to 5% on a non-GAAP adjusted basis. Diluted EPS was $1.46, which we went over, which is a decrease of 15%, but up 7% on a non-GAAP adjusted. The quote from today comes from the CEO of Microsoft that essentially says the last 5 months have made it clear that tech industry is the key to business resilience. Organizations that build their own digital capability will recover faster and emerge from the crisis stronger. He goes on by saying that we are the only company with an integrated modern technology stack powered by cloud and AI and underpinned by security and compliance to help every organization transform and reimagine how they meet their customer needs. And very forward-looking company, and I'm always excited when investing or trading Microsoft stock because I know that it is essentially a very good long-term bet, in my opinion, for myself. So now looking at some of their 3 months ending June 30th revenues, like I said earlier, the total revenues came in at $38 billion, the operating income just over $13 billion, and the net income at just $11.1 billion, which was a decrease of close to 15%, which ended up being a drop of close to 15% on the EPS, which we understand is the earnings per share. That is going to be the net income over the shares outstanding. So now if we move further into the report, you can see this right here is what I've highlighted that essentially says server products and cloud services revenue increased 19%, up 21% in constant currency, driven by Azure revenue growth of 47%. So That was a significant growth for the company, and that was also one of the things that I was really curious to know how well the company did in the fourth quarter of 2020. So I posted another video on Microsoft, I think last week, when we went over some of the things that we need to watch out for ahead of Microsoft's earnings. And that was one of the growth rates that I was personally looking forward to, and how much of that was driven by Azure's revenue growth at 47%, which seems really, really good. So now if you move further into the report, this right here is going to be the 12 months ended on June 30th. Like I said, they operate on a different fiscal year. So this is going to be the total, the revenue and the operating income and the net income that the company made in 2019 going into 2020. So you can see the revenues sit at $143 billion. So up from $125 billion in 2019. So that is a jump of close to 14%. Again, really, really good. The operating income is going to be $52.959 billion, which is going to be a jump of close to 23%. And the net income is going to be $44.281 billion for the whole fiscal year, which represents a 30% net income margin. So for every $1 Microsoft makes in revenue, they're able to make at least 30 cents in net income and return to their shareholders. And that's going to be a percentage jump of close to 13% year over year. So now we're going to jump over to the segment revenue based on these three different business segments, how the company did on a 3-month basis. So you can see how all the three business segments were essentially up from a year ago, with productivity and business processes generating close to $11.7 billion, which is a jump of close to 6%. And then intelligent cloud making $13.3 billion, which is a jump of close to 17%. And then more personal computing revenue was just under $13 billion, which is a jump of close to 14%. So now finally, to go over the select product and services. Now I'm not talking about the business segment, but more specifically the products and services Microsoft has to offer. I want to highlight two of them. Again, Azure is going to be one of them, which saw a revenue jump of close to 47%, and Xbox content and services. This was another thing that I had mentioned in my previous video when I talked about the Microsoft's earnings and things that we need to watch out for. And we went over Xbox and gaming specifically because due to the global pandemic, Microsoft and Xbox in general have seen a surge in gaming because a lot of people are under lockdowns and they are playing video games on their Xbox. So that right there was a 65% jump in terms of the revenue, which again is significantly higher. But I don't think that number right there is going to be sustainable very long, because this has also been exponential due to the fact that people were under lockdowns. So now quickly to go over how much that revenue was for gaming. This right here essentially says gaming revenue increased to $1.3 billion, or 64%, driven by growth in Xbox content and services. Xbox content and services revenue increased by $1.2 billion, or 65%, primarily due to record engagement. So that right there was the complete report for Microsoft's fourth fiscal quarter earnings in 2020 and their entire fiscal year revenues and net income. I will put a link down in the description below for everyone who wants to give it a read. Now we're going to jump over to my TradingView platform to look at the stock price, look at the pattern, and understand those key support and resistance levels that we need to watch moving forward. Alright guys, so here we are inside my TradingView platform. Again, if this is the platform you'd like to use for yourself, the link is going to be down in the description below for you to get started. So right now we're looking at Microsoft stock, ticker symbol MSFT, and you can see that the stock closed at $211.75, and it was up $3 or close to 1.5%. But after hours, you can see that it's down close to 2.3%, and I think it was down even more as soon as the news about their earnings released. So we're going to quickly talk about the pattern so you can see how it is nothing but an ascending pattern. Going back as far as August 2019 or even further back, you can see that it has been on a consistent uptrend, and it has been making higher highs, higher lows, and it's been increasing in value. Now that being said, this right here is the drop due to COVID-19, when the stock was essentially trading at 190 back in February of 2020, and then the stock essentially dropped close to 30%, trading as low as $134 to $135, and since then you can see the stock has made a significant recovery, going up close to 60% from lows of 135 all the way up to all-time highs at $215. So if we were to kind of zoom in on the stock and kind of show you guys what that drop looks like. So this right here is the drop that we are watching right now. So July 22nd, 4 p.m. and this right here is the big red candle that I'm referring to. And we'll jump over on the 5-minute chart to kind of look at the price action and how it interacted with those levels. But that being said, I want you guys to understand this kind of like the trend channel that I have recognized, and these two trend lines which are essentially representing a higher high and a higher low pattern for Microsoft. And it was at that level back on March 2020. It pushed up all the way to 180 on April 17th, and then had a minor pullback, started consolidating, made its way back to this higher low, and then pushed up, got rejected again, pushed up, broke out of some type of resistance here and made an all-time high, and then sold off even further down to this $201 level, and then pushed up and retested this $214 level. So if we were to kind of zoom in on this price action, and I want to highlight some things here, and let me just go ahead and remove some of these trend lines just so we can make it a little bit more cleaner. So this right here was kind of like the old resistance that we were following, and you can see how that ended up being a really strong support for the stock if you were to kind of go across. And this old resistance acted a really strong support here on July 17th. And the all-time resistance is going to sit at $215 because the stock essentially pushed up all the way to that level and then pulled back and then sold off even further. But the higher low that we are following within this trend channel was validated. And not only that, this previous resistance acting as new support also got validated. So there's two supports that validated right here at $202 to $201 level, and the stock essentially found that support and jumped close to about 6%. And then today you can see that it kind of sold off even further down to this $207 to $206 level. So the support that I'm going to be watching very closely is of course right here, which is where the higher low is, and then this horizontal support is going to kind of be. So there's a lot of support for Microsoft stock, right? If it does get a little bit of downward pressure from the bears, and if it does sell off just based on the earnings, which I personally don't see why it would, even though the company beat expectations both in revenue, EPS, intelligent cloud, and computing. They generated significant amounts of revenue in gaming and Azure software, and they also have a 30% net income margin, so they're super profitable even during times of uncertainty. Really goes to show that Microsoft is a very, very healthy stock. Their balance sheet also looks good, so I personally don't see any issues with owning Microsoft for the long term. Again, that's just my opinion. This is not a stock suggestion. Please make sure to do your own research and your own analysis before investing in the markets, and never trade or invest based on other people's opinion. So now we're going to jump over to the 5-minute chart to kind of go over exactly what happened for Microsoft after the earnings. So this right here is the big red candle. You can see that it dropped 2.35%, and it was at one point trading as low as $204. So that entire drop was close to 3.75%, so close to 4%. But then you can see how this right here is the ascending low that the pattern started making. So it pushed up, got rejected, pulled back, found the support here, pushed up again, pulled back, found a support, and it was just trading sideways, and it was finding that support. Where are those next key support and resistance levels we need to watch? The next support I'm going to be personally watching is going to be the $206.54 level. And if you were to go over to the 1-hour chart, you can see that it kind of pushed up, pulled back, and found support there, pushed up, pulled back again, and this ascending low is also forming some type of support here. So in terms of the support, what we're watching is going to be this ascending low. We want to make sure that Microsoft stock stays above that ascending low, and then we also have this horizontal support right here at $206.54, which on the 1-minute chart has acted as some type of resistance here, and then when we finally broke out of that level, we came back down to retest this old resistance, now acting as really strong support. So that is going to be the next support that I'm going to be personally watching. The next resistance is going to be $207.98. If the stock does break out of this level, then we are potentially headed back to 210 or even higher. But before that, the next resistance is probably going to sit right around here at $208 level. And the reason I mentioned that is because that has previously acted as some type of support on the 1-minute chart. You can see how the Microsoft stock essentially pulled back all the way down to this level at $208.75, and then found some type of support and pushed up close to 1.4%. So this old support level can very well continue to act as new resistance, but in the near term, I definitely want to keep a close eye on $206. I definitely want to keep a close eye on $204 $204, and then I definitely want to keep a close eye on $201 level, which if we were to pull back on the chart, you'll see that that has also acted as a really strong level of support for the stock right here. So going back as far as July 17th, which is when the stock essentially pulled back and found its support and pushed up. And this is also where our higher low falls. I deleted the trend line, but that's also where our higher low is going to fall, kind of like the trend channel that I showed you guys on the daily chart. So as always, if you guys did enjoy this video, please make sure to drop a like. It really helps out with the channel. Also subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future market updates and videos related to investing and technical breakdowns. As always, happy investing, and I will see you guys in the next video.